All right, so what are those phases? It's very important to be able to analyze skills. So when we analyze skills, we have to break skills down into phases. All right, so every skill that we perform has a phase. Typically, in what you're going to see in your textbook, and what I like to break them down into, is the prep, load, force, and follow through phases. And this is basically what it looks like. So if I were going to, let's try this. If I were going to serve a volleyball, all right, then I would have a prep phase. So prep phase here. All right, if I want to load, this is a load phase here. And if I want to force, I'm forcing here, and then I'm following through. Typically, the prep phase, I could say prep phase is static, all right, which is a static contraction, which there's no movement here. But as soon as the first movement happens, I am changing phases. Every time, in addition, every time an angle or a joint moves in a new direction, it's going to be a new phase, all right? So when I'm breaking into phases, I can look at change of direction, and particularly change of direction with a joint. So if a joint moves, all right, in the body, I'm going to change phases. Again, this is prep, load, force, and follow through. The force phase is that in which force is given, and it typically ends with contact, or when force is actually applied. So it's going to make contact. After force is made, it comes through. So another example. Let's say we are batting. All right? I'm in a batter stance. I am in a prep phase. All right? So I'm prepping. And now the next phase, you can guess, what is this? That's load. So I'm prepping, load, force to contact, and then follow through. Again, prep, load, force, and follow through of the baseball swing. Prep, load, force, and follow through. So load is very important as coaches. When we're analyzing movement, we want to be able to see that each phase of a skill is happening. So what happens? What's a common error for a baseball batter? A common error for especially a kid would be doing something like this. All right, and what do we say as coaches? What do we say? Well, they were hitting off their front foot. What they didn't do is they didn't have a load phase. All right, because we have to take that energy from the ground, move it through our body, and then we have to send it through the bat. And to do that, we have to load that energy. Load and explode if we were using cues, all right? So prep, load, force, and follow through. Maybe it's a pitcher, prep. Actually, that's a full stance. What we would actually, there'd be a whole lot of phases in this area, but what we're looking at is here, load. So load would be here, and then we are forcing through and follow through. All right. So this would be all prep here, but this is load. All right. Force, or I'm actually still kind of in a load phase here because my arm's back. So it's load and force and follow through. Again, we're looking for joint movements. Joint moves this way, it's one phase. It turns around, it moves this way, it's another phase. If I'm bowling, every joint is moving. It's moving in different directions, and once it moves one way, here, and then it starts moving the other way, here, a new phase begins. This is what we're talking about when we're talking about phases. And for me, as a coach, you know, I can sit in the stands and I look at maybe it's Little League baseball or basketball, and I see error. It's very important as a coach to be able to identify error in skills, and that's what we're doing here. We've got to be able to identify error, and by being able to break a skill down into phases and identify actually what's happening, it helps us as coaches to identify those errors. If we can identify the error, then we can make skill performance corrections. All right? Again, skill performance correction. That might mean getting into the load phase, teaching that batter to load rather than just move into the front foot. All right? So that's what we're looking at. Something as a pitcher, maybe it is again, they're not loading, or maybe they're not coming through with this back, their hips are not rotating, and they're kind of coming through like this instead of coming through with their hips, and then like this, all right, and then through. So we can identify those errors, and by identifying them, we can correct them. Something that you wouldn't want to do as a pitcher is say, as a coach, and you see this all the time, just move over a little bit. You're not throwing a strike. Just move over a little bit. You're throwing to the right. That is an outcome-based correction. That's not something that we should do. We want to make corrections based on skill performance to improve them. All right, and this is the important part of the skill analysis. So I challenge you to dig deep into the skill analysis as you're doing them. Look at them from a coach's view. All right, some of you may be in nursing, all right, or something like that. Look at them from a coach's view. Break it down. Understand what muscles are moving, the joints in those specific phases, and I believe you will learn a lot in this course. Keep those coaches' eyes open, and appreciate you.